Welcome back to Simply Green Radio, brought to you by Simply Green Energy and Mr. Rooter Plumbing. Brendan O'Riordan in studio with you on the Sunday evening, in studio with Maurice Aubrey, Mo, Pete Maurice, True Story Pete. Filling in for Brenna Hartman is Jim Salmon, our home repair expert. And joining us in studio tonight is Tom Piekunka with Piekunka Systems Incorporated. He is an engineer who specializes in geothermal products, and that's what we are talking about, the whole geothermal process. And a lot of interesting things mentioned, in this last break off the air. So maybe, Mo, you can enlighten our listeners to some of the things that we were talking about and just kind of continue the conversation.
Okay, very good. Yes, Tom, some of the things I wanted to get into with you a little bit is the fact that, I've had customers ask about heating with the geothermal, basically using a body of water, whether it be a pond, a creek, a lake, a long pond, for a few things. And I know I am planning on building, and I want to put a pond in big enough to do my house and my barn. So why don't you kind of tell me what I need to do and what size pond I'm going to have in order to do that.
And before you answer that, 222-1180, 222-1180, I'd love to give out the phone number, because let's face it, some of the things that we might be talking about here, new to the listener. So, maybe they're learning more, not necessarily calling in, but we do want to hear from you. But go ahead, Tom, answer most question.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about horizontal ground loops, vertical ground loops. Well, there's also lake loops and pond loops. And one of my first jobs that I was involved with in 1996 was for the U.S. Navy underwater sea warfare platform on Seneca Lake in Dresden. And they pull water from that lake from about 300 feet deep, and they have about 39-degree water that they heat and cool their platform out on Seneca Lake. But for residents, you can, if you have a pond, roughly about a half-acre pond, that's typically what you need to heat a 2,000 square foot house, and you can submerge coils into that pond. Now, I've done commercial buildings with pond systems in much smaller ponds, but there's different ways to approach that. You can submerge coils, or you can expand those coils like a slinky and disperse the heat so you have more area to cover. Because you can, if you concentrate the load, you can actually freeze the water in that pond. So, yeah, a typical house you could do in a half acre house.
And the coils go right in the water. They're not buried below the pond. It's right in the water itself.
Right. And that's one of the most economicals. Economical systems to install if you have a body of water.
Are they just laying there? Or are they in some kind of structure?
They're laying there, and they're weighted down with concrete blocks or some type of ballast.
Okay.
And they lay right on the bottom.
222-1180, the number to call if you want to join in on the conversation, 222-1180. We want to welcome in Jeff from Fairport. Jeff, welcome to Simply Green Radio.
Hi. I've been thinking about geothermal for a few years now, and I always thought you had to go deeper than, what did you say, 6 feet?
Well, Jeff, it depends on the ground heat exchanger that you put in. You can do it essentially at 4 feet. The deeper you go, the better off you are to absorb more heat.
Well, I know that, like in the mines, salt mines, it's like 70 degrees down there. So why not just go deeper to get warmer temperatures?
Well, you can go deeper. It's for residents, if you have the land, you would excavate a trench is most economical. Or if you don't have the land, the property, you would go vertical bores. And, you also have to think about the installation. When you start digging a trench, you're working in a trench that's 6 feet deep. If that trench collapses, I mean, it's serious.
Do you can you just all of a sudden hire somebody and start digging, or do you need a permit for this stuff?
Well, it depends what area you're in.
You mean what town? Okay.
Right.
I'd like to continue my question if I could.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So is there a bell curve as to if you go deeper, it's not worth the cost?
Well, it depends on the heat exchanger again. You can put in less pipe if you go deeper. Typically, we're involved with the SUNY Geneseo, where we're putting in 144 wells. And those are, you only need to go about 150 feet of vertical bore for 1 ton. So we were talking earlier about a trench. If you had you may need a 200 to 300 foot trench where you'd put probably 600 to 800 feet of pipe into that trench for 1 ton. So you can see 800 feet of pipe or 100 or 300 feet of pipe. It really plays out on what's going to be the most economical solution.
Is it more expensive to drill a well or to excavate a trench?
It is more costly to drill a well than excavate a trench.
222-1180, the number to call if you want to join in on the conversation. Again, that number 222-1180. We'll go right back to the phone lines right now. We'll welcome in Cameron. Cameron, welcome to Simply Green Radio.
Thank you. My question was in regards to the actual structure itself. If you do make the move to geothermal, as to what types of insulation and sealing are required with an existing structure. Let's say something that was built maybe in the 70s or even before that.
Well, your best solution is to tighten up the envelope and conserve as much heat and energy as you can, and then look at a ground source heat pump system. Because, it's not like upsizing a gas furnace. The cost to upsize a gas furnace from maybe 60,000 BTUs to 80,000 BTUs is maybe only a few $100s. But with a ground source heat pump system, you're not only upsizing your heat pump, you have to increase your ground heat exchanger, your loop field. And that's where additional costs can come in. So
thousands of dollars.
Right. So your best is to tighten up the house, insulate it as best you can, and then incorporate a ground source heat pump system.
But would you consider geothermal economical on an older structure like that, or would it obviously be best suited for a newer home?
It can be done in an older house. We've done historic places where they're hundreds of years old, and you can still make it an economical system. But you want to increase the thermal integrity of the building.
So it's pretty important that the system be spec'd pretty close, because more isn't better, right?
That's right. Well, more is better in the ground heat exchanger,
but not in air conditioning.
Right. But you wanna reduce your heating cooling load as much as you can in your structure, and then put in a ground heat exchange, or put in a ground source heat pump.
222-1180, the number to call. Again, that number 222-1180. We are in studio tonight with Tom Piekunka. Tom is an engineer and specializes in geothermal products with Piekunka Systems Incorporated. And in studio tonight, Maurice Aubry, Mo, Pete Morisi, True Story Pete, and filling in for Brenna Hartman is Jim Salmon, our home repair expert. We do need to cut away for one final break, and then we'll be back with our last segment of hour number 1, and then, of course, hour number 2 of Ask the Experts. Coming up next, this is Simply Green Radio, brought to you by Simply Green Energy and Mr. Rooter Plumbing here on News Radio 1180 WHAM.